Hey friends, I'm back again today to talk to you about homeschooling. Today I'm going to focus on how to homeschool or what to do with a 4 to 6-year-old child. The reason I'm doing this is I made a video the other day that I think helped some people, but I was suggesting in that video that it seems like this is going to be temporary. I'm sure it'll all be over soon, but I just watched a video from a friend who's involved in government preparedness, and he was saying that realistically, it's going to be 12 weeks minimum. You shouldn't expect your kid to go back to school before August. So I thought, wow, okay, I need to give some more specific tips. So what to do with a 4 to 6-year-old. So this would be like if you have 1 or 2 kids and you have a lot of energy, you can start them when they're age 4. If you have more kids or just not a lot of time, you're working a lot, it's fine to start this at age 6. It is really not a big deal. I mean, I love to start kids early if I have energy. It's really all gravy, seriously. So first thing I would say, okay, wait, hold on. For starters, there's something you should know about me, and that is my philosophy when it comes to homeschooling. I am a person who wants to maximize my time and effort. I don't like schedules. I don't like details. Don't relish the thought of sitting down with my children in a beautiful circle and, oh, we're all learning together. I'm I want them to learn it. I want them to have a very rich and meaningful childhood. I want them to be smart and prepared, but I don't want to do anything that's going to waste my time or theirs. So that's my perspective. So if you were looking for an easy homeschool method, this is the one. First thing I would do is start off by teaching them to read if they don't know how to read. And here's how I teach my kids to read. Number 1, I get the Leapfrog Letter Factory DVD, and that teaches them their letter sounds. I think it is the best thing out there. When I am working actively with a kid to learn to read, I make them watch it 2 or 3 times a day. It teaches them great letter sounds, and that's a lot of time saved flipping phonics cards and stuff like that. Number 2, I get the book, How to Teach Your Child to Read in 100 Easy Lessons. I'm pretty sure that's the long-winded title. It's maybe $15 or $16 on Amazon. I've already gone through 2 of those books with my family. They're great. It is not the most fun, beautiful book. My kids weren't happy going through it. But around about lesson 60 or 70, they were flying and off on their own. They skipped all the baby reader books and just went straight almost to beginning chapter books. I love that book because it is research-based and it is thorough. So you only need 2 things to teach your kid to read. So if you haven't done that, start there. Let that be your focus. Don't do anything else, because your life is much easier when you homeschool if your children can read. Easy. Okay, if your kids can already read, or you just want to do more stuff. Handwriting. I think this is a great handwriting book to start with. I don't even know if this is the current version, but I buy these for my kids used on Amazon for $5. So it's called Zahner Blosser Handwriting K. This is for the kindergarten. And I'll tell you why I like it. Because it is scripted. So when I say something is scripted, that means it tells you what to say as the parent. And that How to Teach Your Child to Read book is scripted. You just read, this is blah, blah, blah. I don't even remember what it says. It tells you every step of the way what to do. So then you don't mess it up. Okay, this is, for this handwriting, it tells you at the bottom, stroke description. Whoever knew what that was, but handwriting, pull down straight, lift, dot. So it's telling you as the parent, here's what you say when they're learning how to make this thing. And this book also, I haven't seen another handwriting book that does this. It teaches the kids the names of these lines. So vocab is so important. And a lot of times you feel frustrated with your kid, you're explaining it, they're not getting it. It's the vocabulary. If you aren't teaching them the basics of, for instance, this book says, okay, this blue line at the top is called the headline. This red line at the bottom is called the baseline. The dotted line in the middle is the midline. And just those words Then the kid's like, okay. And then you say, start at the headline and pull down. And the book is so consistent with the way it's teaching them strokes. This book is outstanding. So this book is really good. Like I said, I get mine used on Amazon for like $5. There usually has like a couple of pages written in it from like it was from a school and it barely got used. Another book I really like is the Kumon books. Oh, they're so pretty. And it's not as much practice as the other one, but oh, it sure is cute. And they have words now and they're practicing these lowercase letters. I actually think this one might be all uppercase. No, this one has lowercase as well. Well, I've done both of these. I liked this one. I think I gave this to my kids after they did the Zahner Blosser. This one does not explain about the headline and baseline. But this is a really good one. So important. Reading aloud. If your kids are reading, if they're not reading, reading aloud is probably the number one best thing you can do for almost any age child, but especially that elementary age. It's building their vocabulary, building their understanding of the world, building their emotional connection with you. It's so important. You just have to do it. If you want to learn more about reading aloud and why it's important, you can follow the Read Aloud Revival by Sarah Mackenzie. I think I mentioned that before. She will give great book recommendations. But those are really, really important things. So teaching reading, letter sounds, handwriting, and then if you're like, I've got to go the extra mile with my 4 to 6 year old, Saxon Math. So this is my 6-year-old. He just turned 6. Math book. A pack of 2 of these, which is first grade math, is available on Amazon for I think $35. You can buy the Homeschool Math packet, which includes an instructional book for parents. I bought that probably my first 2 years homeschooling. And then I said, this is dumb. This is such a waste of time. It really is like they took a teacher handbook for a teacher teaching 30 students, and then they said, here, homeschoolers, you should do this. But I learned a long time ago from someone that math is developmental. To a large degree, you or your child's ability to understand math, you're an adult, but a person's ability to understand math can be capped by their brain development. And so you'll notice, and I've seen this with my own kids, that you could like beat your head in trying to explain the concept of addition to, say, a 3, 4, 5-year-old, and they just do not get it. They don't understand what you're saying. And then even 6 months later, they might be like, oh yeah, that's obvious. Because a lot of parts of math are intuitive. Now, I'm not saying everything about math is intuitive, but when you're talking about little kids, they can, when it's basic math, addition and subtraction, a lot of it can be, they're just not developmentally ready for that concept. So I don't use the teacher handbook. What I do, and this is what another parent told me to do, is you get this little book. There's 2 workbooks for the entire year, $35. And I say, okay, you have to do 2 pages per day. These Saxon, in the homeschool community, some people call Saxon, the curriculum, they call it kill by drill because it's very intensive. So there's like a front and a back, and they're almost the same with just different numbers. I make my kids do this front page. This is the lesson page, and you can see this is really basic. You don't need really a lesson to help you understand almost every page in the book. There are some pages where clearly there was an activity that was maybe like a classroom activity, and if you don't have the teacher book, you're like, what was that? But usually I just say, oh, it looks like we're supposed to make a bar graph. Let's do that, and I just make something up. But, this is a basic thing. And then the next page is math facts practice. And then they just do those 2 pages and boom, they're done for the day. And sometimes they come to you and they say, I can't figure this one out. What does parallel mean? But it's usually not much more difficult than that. Maybe you have to look up what's the technical definition of a rhombus. I don't remember that. But then you kind of figure it out together. But it's really basic. So my daughter, spoiler alert for later in the week, is doing like Saxon 3. I'm still not buying the teacher books. And then eventually, once they get to Saxon 4 and 5, I think it's called, Saxon 4-5 or 5-4, there starts to be a child textbook with it. And so then they're ready to start reading their own math lesson. But I'll talk about that later. So, summary, number 1, teach them to read letter sounds first with the Leapfrog Letter Factory. Number 2, teach them their actual reading once they've learned their letter sounds with Teach Your Child to Read in 100 Easy Lessons. Number 3, teach them handwriting. Work with them, make them practice this every day, or you can get a Kumon book. And then the last thing is adding math. And for my kids that are younger than 9 years old, that is all they do. Now we have a co-op where they learn like some math, or not math, but science and history stuff, and they do a little experiment. But if you want to add science into your child's life, you can order one of those science experiment books. I can try to look up some for you, but they're a dime a dozen. You can find those anywhere at thrift stores, library, and do some science experiments or watch a Mark Roper video. But when they're little, they just need to play outside and listen to you read books. So that's a summary. Keep it simple with these ages and make it fun. When I say make it fun, if they're like really having trouble, maybe take a step back and say, okay, you just turned 4. You don't have to start, first grade math right away. By the way, I didn't say that. Saxon does have a kindergarten program. I don't do it. I feel like it's too labor intensive for the parents, and they don't need it. All that stuff, it's going to be intuitive later. It's got a bunch of manipulatives, and I just don't think they need that. This, you can just start them here whenever you're ready, and if they seem like they get it, then that's a good sign. If they hate it, put it on pause for a little while. I hope that is helping you.